Monsters have been the face of our irrational fears and captured our imaginations since the beginning of civilization. Like our fears, they come in all shapes and sizes and meet us in our nightmares. They can be physical manifestations of evil, serve as metaphors that reflect our current anxieties, or they can be cautionary tales about the consequences of man's meddling with the natural order. Movies have been the perfect medium to explore the darker corners of our minds and help create the iconic representations that we will forever associate with these movie monsters.
Did you know that with YouTube's new algorithm, simply mentioning the word demon will cause it to be demonetized? So with that taken into consideration, welcome to another motherfucking episode of Movie Monsters. This is part 2 of the demon episode. Thanks for coming by to talk a little bit of horror with me this week. If you want to catch part 1, then just check in the description where I will post a link. Still here? Fantastic. Let's go ahead and jump in. All the way back in 1988, a 6-year-old Jeremy was in the local video store. There he stood, transfixed by the image on a VHS cover. Pumpkinhead is the story of a grieving father who's played by Lance Henriksen. He's seeking vengeance against a group of teens that recently murdered his son in a motorcycle accident and fled the scene to some remote cabin. He goes and visits a creepy-ass witch up in the Appalachian Mountains and makes a deal with her to resurrect an ancient demon by the name of Pumpkinhead. But of course, this pack's gonna cost him a whole hell of a lot more than just money. It's gonna cost him his soul. When the demon finds the teens out in the cabin, he proceeds to kill the fuck out of them one by one. By the time Henriksen's character starts to feel a little remorse about what he's done, he realizes that he shares a connection with the creature and that it may indeed be way too late. It didn't mean much to me at the time, but this is the directorial debut of effects master Stan Winston. He's responsible for some of the most iconic creatures in cinematic history, like the Terminator, the Queen Alien, the Predator, the Velociraptors, and the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, and just a ton more. As a matter of fact, Pumpkinhead himself is a fantastic creature in his own right, and probably the movie's biggest selling point. Pumpkinhead is a movie with an exceptionally good premise. The look of the film, the locations, and the set design all really add to this rich atmosphere. This legend of Pumpkinhead, as told by these Appalachian hillbillies, feels like it existed way before the film was made. Unfortunately, a weak script and poor characterizations really do bring the movie down quite a bit. The fact that Henriksen's character has this desire for vengeance and it connects him to the monster actually makes for some pretty interesting subtext. Tales from the Crypt was first published by EC Comics all the way back in 1955. Then there was a British 1972 movie, and then there was my introduction to Tales from the Crypt in the form of the cameo-stuffed, long-running HBO series of the same name. It was an anthology horror series that was bookended by the now iconic Crypt Keeper, a decrepit little corpse with a bad sense of humor. Or should I say, a bad sense of tumor. No, seriously, don't blame me for that. That's the kind of dumb shit that he would actually say.
Kids these days, with their long hair, you can't even tell the boils from the ghouls.
With the series' popularity, it was inevitable that eventually we'd get a movie. Well, 40 years after the release of the comic, Demon Knight hit theaters. Demon Knight is very much a product of its time. It opens up with a car chase and a shootout set to none other than Filter's Hey Man, Nice Shot. Entered a drifter named Breaker. Yeah, fucking Breaker. I told you this movie was a product of its time. Anyways, he's carrying an antiquity that looks like a key, and he ends up escaping to a boarding house in the desert nearby. He's being pursued by a mysterious character named the Collector, played by none other than Billy Zane. You may know Billy Zane from his role as the Phantom, the gay dude in Tombstone, the asshole from Titanic, or Billy Zane in Zoolander.
Listen to your friend Billy Zane. He's a cool dude.
Inside the boarding house, we're introduced to the usual lineup of stereotypes and cliches. We've got the veteran badass, the whore with a heart of gold, the asshole, the dumb cop, the old pervert, the sassy black lady, the nice guy, the ex-convict, and oh yeah, Satan. See, Breaker's antiquity is a key that carries the magical blood of Jeebus, but the collector wants it for himself. After a fucking fantastically disgusting confrontation, the group boards themselves inside with the collector stuck outside.
Humans! You're not worth the flesh you're printed on! Fuck this cowboy shit! You fucking ho dunk, po dunk, well then there, motherfuckers!
Then he bleeds predator blood into the dirt and spawns a bunch of Pumpkinhead looking monsters that look like they're on tour with 9 Inch Nails. Even the demons look like they're from the 1990s. Demon Night has similarities to Night of the Living Dead, at least in that our cast is trapped inside one location, fending off a horde that's trying to get in. However, unlike Night of the Living Dead, these demons actually pose a threat. Add to that, there is a power struggle going on inside. Thomas Hayden Church's character just wants to play ball and give the collector the key, but the rest think making a deal with the devil might not be the best idea. True to the HBO series, this movie has a ton of famous actors in it. Most notably, Jada Pinkett Smith, who ends up the unlikely hero. Tales from the Crypt Demon Night is funny and it's subversive and it never takes itself super seriously. In a lot of ways, this is the Billy Zane show, and it's easily my favorite performance that he's ever given. I would never go so far as to say Demon Night is a good film, but I will say this, it's a hell of a lot of fun. Skip Or Do I Love Blood though, unless you're curious to see how well Dennis Miller's overly highbrow sense of self-righteous humor works within the context of a C-movie with chick vampires running a whorehouse. 1997's The Devil's Advocate opens in a Gainesville courtroom. Keanu Reeves plays a defense attorney by the name of Kevin Lomax. He's representing a teacher charged with child molestation, and he knows good and fucking well that this guy is guilty. Despite that one little fact, he decides to destroy the victim's credibility during a cross-examination, allowing him to win the case and his client to walk free. Kevin is a character not overly concerned with morality. This victory catches the attention of a huge firm in New York City.
New York City!
This mysterious firm offers Kevin a lucrative position that he can't refuse, so he and his wife Marianne, played by Charlize Theron, move into Manhattan. This company is run by John Milton, played by none other than Al Pacino. Milton seems to take an interest in Kevin immediately and takes him under his wing as a sort of mentor figure. Kevin's latest case involves a man accused of murdering his family. With work getting more demanding, Marianne is having to spend more and more time alone. She starts to notice that things aren't quite right and starts to suspect that maybe John Milton isn't who he says he is. Maybe he's Lucifer in the flesh. Is she losing her mind, or is Kevin just so blinded by greed that he can't see what's going on right in front of him? Turns out to be the latter. See, John has big plans for Kevin. He wants him to father the Antichrist. The Devil's Advocate is what you'd get if you crossed Rosemary's Baby with a John Grisham novel. Maybe with even a little Sin of a Woman sprinkled in there for good measure. In a way, it's a story about the American dream and how far a person's willing to go for what they perceive as success. Is making money more important than the people you love, your morality, or even your soul? Pacino in this movie is just totally hamming it up and having a blast doing it. In fact, John Milton makes a pretty compelling case towards the end of the movie. And plus, no one likes lawyers, so this is a movie anybody can get behind. Next is 2005's The Exorcism of Emily Rose, another story claiming to be true. Scott Derrickson of Doctor Strange and Sinister was behind the wheel on this one, and it's loosely based on the exorcisms of a young woman named Annalise Mitchell.
Im Namen deines Sohnes, den Jungfrau, im Namen Jesu, befehle ich dir auszufahren.
This is one of those rare stories where truth actually is far more disturbing than anything this studio put in the film. The ritual in both cases took place over the course of a year, and it eventually killed the possessed chick. Was it murder? That's what the film proposes to answer. It starts off with a Catholic priest getting charged for molesting Never mind, that was Spotlight. This one's about the death of a girl named Emily Rose during an unauthorized exorcism. The church wants him to plead guilty, but he chooses not to and retains an attorney, played by Laura Linney. Through a series of tapes, flashbacks, and recorded audio, we see the events unfold. It appears that not only was Emily possessed, but she was possessed by a host of demons, including Beelzebub himself. At the end of the trial, the attorney closes her arguments with a letter that Emily wrote on the day before she died. It stated that she had a vision of the Virgin Mary and was given the choice to die peacefully or become a martyr and provide actual proof of angels and demons. Emily chose to become a martyr. Well, that clears it up for me. I guess I'm sold. The movie starts out as a realistic approach to the material, exploring mental illness and the true nature of what goes into these rituals, as well as what the hearings look like. But really early on, it veers into conventional possession movie territory. I personally wish it would have subverted the tropes and stayed a little more ambiguous, leaving it up to the viewer's interpretation. But alas, what's an exorcism movie without an exorcism? In 2009, audiences everywhere showed up in droves to experience Paranormal Activity. It's a found footage flick marketed as the scariest movie of all time. I'm not so sure about that. The trailers and the promotional material revolved around night vision footage of audiences watching it in a packed theater and going nuts. Is this the first reaction video? I'll be posting my reaction to that question on my YouTube channel, so all you have to do is like, subscribe, comment, follow, donate to my Patreon, and don't forget to sniff your own farts. Anyways, in it, a young couple set up a camera to capture the strange happenings going on at night. This demon's a real prankster who'd rather switch on and off lights and slam doors than do anything too nefarious, until it starts to possess Katie, the girlfriend. Paranormal Activity was a serious game changer. It is a gimmick movie, but it has a micro budget and it made gangbusters at the box office, showing studios and filmmakers that all it really takes is an interesting concept and some strategically placed jump scares to make $1 zillion. Paranormal Activity isn't great, but it's a flick you experience in a crowded theater with enthusiastic horror lovers. It's actually pretty cathartic, an immersive jump scare thrill ride that kept me white-knuckled the entire time. Today there are 700 Paranormal Activity sequels, and the formula has definitely gotten stale. But it's the most fun you're bound to have staring at a chandelier in an empty room. James Wan has become a horror icon. It started back in 2004 when he and frequent writing partner Lee Wanell teamed up to direct Saw. And since then, every subsequent movie that Wan directed cemented the fact that he truly is one of the greats. So much so that he recently landed the job directing the upcoming Aquaman. He also helped put Blumhouse Pictures on the map, and it was with this next film. Insidious is about two parents, played by Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne, who move into a new house with their 3 kids. The oldest of the 3 kids falls into a mysterious coma. After 3 months, the parents decide it's time to bring him home, and then strange shit starts happening that they have no explanation for. The hauntings start escalating until one night the mom is actually physically attacked, and she decides, fuck this, we're taking the kids and we're getting out of here, which is pretty refreshing considering typical horror movie behavior. They move into a new place, and guess what? The haunting doesn't stop. So they decide it's time to bring on the help of a few ghost hunters. One of them is an elderly woman who's a psychic, and then her 2 assistants who are younger guys that are essentially YouTube ghost hunters. It was revealed that the child was never actually in a coma, but that his spirit had entered the astral plane, a place known as the Upside Down. What? Oh yeah, that's right, the Further.
I'm absolutely sure the Duffer Brothers did not rip that off. We also realized that the father Josh may have some previous connection to this astral plane and the demons living in it. And now it may be up to these 3 paranormal researchers to save this family's souls. Insidious is made up of parts that we've seen in other horror movies. There's no denying it. However, it also subverts the tropes just enough to feel like it's doing something original. And it's visually really interesting. The ghosts and the demons look unlike anything I've seen before, and I really appreciate the creativity. Wan works fantastically with this cast, and that in itself elevates the material. If I had one criticism about Insidious, it's that the editing itself seems a little bit off, and the scares didn't really resonate with me the way that I would have liked them to. But, all things considered, Insidious is a damn fine horror film.
This house is clean.
I have mentioned it in other videos, but some of these movies aren't gonna neatly fit into one movie monster category or the other. Sinister is a prime example. It's a creepy kids movie with ghosts and a demon named Bagul. Bagul is a fancy word for boogeyman, meant to distract us from the fact that he's just a dude wearing a repurposed Slipknot mask. Much in the same way that Michael Myers is just wearing a repurposed William Shatner mask. Ethan Hawke plays a crime writer that needs another hit, so he decides he's gonna move his family into the scene of a grisly murder. Like any good parent. One night in the attic, he discovers a crate full of film reels that depict some real fucked up family get-togethers. Each one depicts the murders of an entire family, and in each case, one child went missing. He starts to get obsessed with this whole case and sees that the ghostly image of Bagul shows up in each and every one of the videos. Are these missing children victims, or are they somehow being manipulated by this mysterious creature? He's so consumed with finishing this book that he doesn't realize what's happening right in front of his face. Sinister's fucking creepy. Okay, so like 2/3 of it are really creepy. By the time the ghost kids show up, I gotta admit, I'm pretty checked out. But it's the home movies that set this disturbing vibe over the entire film. There's an inevitability about the way the events play out, and we, as the viewers, are all aware of what's happening, even though our main character is totally oblivious to it. It's another film produced by Blumhouse Pictures, and it is leagues better than most of what shows up in the movie theaters these days. James Wan was back at it again in 2013 with what many consider to be a modern-day classic. The Conjuring is a supposedly true story inspired by the case files of popular demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Vera Farmiga and the frequent Wan collaborator Patrick Wilson. It tells the story of the Perrons, a really big family that moves into a farmhouse that they believe to be haunted by evil spirits. The Warrens are called in to investigate, and Lorraine believes she feels a strong demonic presence. At first, they think it's fixated on one of the young girls, but we soon come to realize that it's actually got its sights set on the mother. The Warrens know that they have to perform an exorcism, but are waiting for approval from the Catholic Church, until they realize they can't wait anymore, and they have to go forward with this emergency exorcism to rid the family of a demonic ghost by the name of Bathsheba, who was a witch back in the 18th century. Like I said, totally true story. The Conjuring would come to be James Wan's career-defining film. It shows that he has a reverence for these classic ghost stories from the late 70s and early 80s without it ever feeling like he's cashing in on nostalgia porn. It's got a confident pacing that doesn't feel the need to rush to the scary stuff. It spends a little bit of time letting us get to know these characters, which really increases the stakes. To me, it didn't feel like it had those same awkward edits that Insidious did, which made the scares way more effective. The way that he stages the scary scenes in this movie have really come to define the entire genre. But nobody does it quite like Wan. He draws you in, and when you expect the jump scare to happen, it doesn't. And then, right when you finally let your guard down, wham! The Conjuring isn't reinventing the wheel. It's something that we're all very familiar with, but what it does show is that James Wan is an auteur that has a really solid understanding of the medium.
And despite how much I hate this stupid fucking term, The Conjuring kicked off its own shared cinematic universe. There's several sequels and spin-offs planned, and if The Conjuring 2 is any indication of the quality, there are plenty more scares in store. Lots of titles on this video are pretty well known, but part of the purpose is to introduce you guys to something a little bit different. And 2014's The Taking of Debra Logan is a possession film that you shouldn't miss. Debra Logan is suffering from Alzheimer's and is facing repossession on her house. A repossession? Wonder who exorcised it the first time? A documentary crew wants to make a movie about the elderly lady's illness. She's exhibiting some strange behavior, but it's easily explained away by her mental state, until the cameraman starts to realize that some of this shit can't be explained away by basic science. Like Debra speaking in French tongues about sacrifices and snakes and shit when she never knew another language. She isn't suffering from Alzheimer's, she's suffering from a demonic possession. And the demon needs the souls of 5 young girls. Which, I mean, hey, who doesn't? It plays with the idea that people with Alzheimer's may be more susceptible to being attacked by malicious spirits due to their mental state. The idea of the demon needing to feed on 5 souls is an interesting one, and it takes the film in some strange directions. And if you haven't heard of Debra Logan, check out Netflix and give it a try. That is the end of the demon episode. You've been cleansed. Thanks for checking it out. Like usual, I know that there are a ton that I didn't touch on. So that means I may have left your favorites off the list. If I did, that's what the comment section is for. What is the worst flick on this list? What is the best? Let's have one of those one-sided conversations where you tell me I'm weird looking and have a dumb voice. If you're watching this episode, please help me get the word out and share the Movie Monsters web series. If you're not caught up with the rest, there is a playlist with over 10 more episodes, I think, so check those out. Like if you wanna, subscribe if you wanna, don't do anything if you don't wanna. I'm just glad you stayed until the very end. Stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. I'm Jeremy. Be terrible.